Good night, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Tonight, I'm flying solo. As you can see, I don't have all my crew members. Everybody's busy. But guess what, guys? I have a co pilot, and her name is Madalyn. So I think I'm in great company with her tonight. We're excited to have a show tonight about um, dwarf, being a dwarf, and that's how I'm gonna do it because guys, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the word. Me and her played around with it. Once she says it a couple of times, I think I can do it. But right now, I'm gonna introduce Madalyn to you, and so excited. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I was waiting. I met
Gosh.
her on Saturday at the expo, guys. Don't mean to put no pressure on you, Madalyn, but I met her on at the World of Possibilities Expo on Saturday, and we instantly bonded. I like her. I like her energy, and I'm just excited to hear about dwarfism. So I'll go from there. Madalyn, take over. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then go and tell us a little bit about your condition.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm Madeline. I'm 53 years old. I am called. It's an achondroplasia dwarf. That's the name of it. Let me see. Okay. There are many types of dwarfism. Dwarfism is like a umbrella, and underneath there's different types. Like there's over close to 100 plus. But one of the main, I said, popular is achondroplasia dwarfs, and they are the is a based on physical appearance. So it's not of anything as far as blood type or anything. So how it happens is basically is the mutations of the two genes called I have it written down too. The FGFR3 gene, and that has to deal with the bones and tissue when they're um, discombobulated. Okay, so and that's what makes us the way we are. And basically, achondroplasia is a skeletal um, mutation issue where the average height is 4'4". I'm 4'1". We have short limbs, short arms, short legs. Our torso is a little bit longer. It's the average torso, so that's why it looks like when you see us, our arms are shorter, like compared to that matches our body, put like this, than our legs.
Mhm.
And when we're born, well, when I was born, I look. What my mother told me, I look like the average baby. They didn't
Mhm.
know. So I was born in '71. They didn't know, of course. So when I was 21 inches long, 7 pounds. But as I within that month, she said my head started to get a little bit bigger, and she can just see a little change in as the bones were growing. And now this is in 1971.
Mhm.
So where the medicine and everything was, they didn't really hear about it like that.
Mhm.
So of course she said she took me to the doctor to get a lot of tests done, and one of the biggest things was with achondroplasia dwarfs, with by their head getting bit growing, that sometimes they get retain fluid.
Mhm.
So they wanted to check and see if I had water on the brain, but I didn't. They didn't do the test, but I didn't. Um, and they checked the arms. They did and throughout my life, I've had to go to doctors because I was bow legged. Also, that's another thing. We're normally we're bow legged,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, and then so from what I can remember, I went to the doctor a lot,
Mhm.
just to see what was going on and you know what kind of life she would have, again, my parents were average size,
Mhm.
and from what my mother was telling me, of course, they asked people in the family, was anybody else little, but there was no history of it.
Mhm.
And so sometimes, or that, I guess that could happen. So it's not that my mother did something or my father did something to make me like this. Because trust me, I've heard stories where people would ask their kids would ask their parents, why is she so little? And I've
Mhm.
heard some, like, listening. And
Mhm.
the parents would say, one said that my mother was bad, told her child that. That's why I was born that way. Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
lot of misconceptions.
Yeah.
A
Right.
lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the lack of the ignorance sometimes is where those misconceptions come from.
Hmm.
And I think um sometimes they come from a place where people feel uncomfortable really asking the questions.
Hmm.
What they do is they make up something, and sometimes they don't make it up to be mean, they make it up because they truly believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's a lot of misconceptions. And I will say this is the reason why we have advocacy, because
Hmm.
it's an opportunity to teach society. A lot of those misconceptions, we don't know really where you all got them from, but it's not true. And
Right.
yeah, yeah.
And one day, I mean, um, like I said, I have an older brother and an older sister, average size.
Hmm.
So my mom was very protective of me,
Yeah,
and
understand.
she used to tell me, like, when my brother and sister, my father was very into sports and stuff. They would go outside and play basketball and stuff, but she was afraid for me to go out there because I would get hit with the basketball. And my father would say, she'll be okay. She gets hit, and or we running, and playing around and stuff. But she eventually eased up a little bit. So
Yeah.
basically, I did everything that they did, except
Yep.
some, I may have needed a little more help.
Hmm.
As far as turning on the light, I may have asked them, or I get a stool and you know, I used to climb up on the counters to go in the cabinets, all that
Hmm.
stuff. So, and in school, it's nothing like it is now. Everybody was protective of each other. So
Yeah.
I don't remember getting bullied. I didn't get bullied. I may have got teased here and there,
Okay.
but I had an older brother and older sister.
That's what I was going to ask. How did you
No,
fall into, were you the oldest, youngest?
I'm
How
the
did
youngest. I'm the
Okay.
youngest.
Oh
I have
yeah, you're very protected.
yeah, my brother's the oldest, and then my sister.
Okay.
And then so like there's a particular time when I went to kindergarten, my sister walked me, and there's what they used to tease me, and of course I didn't know she ended up talking about him, made him cry. I mean, stuff like that. But again, I wasn't, like I said, what you hear with the kids nowadays,
Yeah.
you know. And then just growing up, just the average child like everybody else. But then it got a little hard when a lot of my friends got taller than me, or especially people that were my little cousins that were younger than me were getting, growing up taller than me. And I was like, I'm older than you. You need to listen to me, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Going back to your parents. I want to, because I like I told you offline, I did read up on and I'm going to try to pronounce it. Don't you say it. And okay, just tell me.
achondroplasia.
Achondroplasia. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was reading about that, some of it was saying, some of the information was saying that it could be a genetic condition that happens sometimes in the bloodline. Maybe not with your parents, but maybe like at some point in your parents' genealogy. Is it so? No one else in your
It's possible. I mean, um, but I guess far as my grandparents on both sides went back,
family?
they didn't know of anyone.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, maybe way down the line. I don't know.
And what they were saying is it's somewhat of a genetic disorder. Because I will say for me, my daughter has a rare genetic disorder. Her chromosome
Hmm.
number 6 is duplicated. So
Okay.
when you say that, when I was reading, it says it was a mutation or what have you. Did it affect a specific chromosome? Because of course, we got 13 from our parent mother, 13 from our father, and totally we have 26. Did it affect any particular chromosome?
Honestly, I don't know that part.
Okay, okay.
I don't
Because
know
you
because I'm
did
still, learning about that part.
Yeah, because the thing about it, and I asked that because a lot of the times when it's affecting a specific chromosome, that is attached to a specific part of the body. For instance, one may say the chromosome number 3 is tied to your kidneys.
Hmm.
Kidneys are going to be smaller than average. My
Right.
daughter's chromosome number 6, hers is rare, and they don't know what to expect other than developmental delays. But the thing about it is, it's so many chromosome abnormalities, and I tell
Hmm.
people one of the more common ones is Down syndrome, and
Yes. Yeah.
even saying like some of the people that are being diagnosed with dwarfism today, any form of it, they're saying that they can tell it by the ultrasound. So I'm assuming,
Yes.
yeah, but who would, when you think about it, most people, when you tell it by that, they would have to go in and get the what's the big needle being stuck in your stomach?
Um. I mean,
Amnio.
yeah.
So for me, if you don't, like you say, they didn't even pick any of that up. So
No, nothing on what it was.
why would you just opt to say I'm gonna go get the amnio? And if that's the only way they can pick it up, like you say, most likely they won't know it until you start developing,
Right.
unless it's picked up in the ultrasound.
By the ultrasound or X-ray, but they don't
Exactly.
do that. Yeah. But yeah, you said she didn't know. She did say, uh, I don't know how far along she was. She had to have her gallbladder removed,
Okay.
and
Okay.
she saying I don't know what she told my siblings, but she was pregnant. She was guessing that that might have something to do with it. I don't know, but
Okay.
I don't think from what I learned that I don't had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
You know.
Now,
So
another thing that I heard, Madeline, another thing
mhm.
that I read, and this is common with my daughter, is that this condition can bring along constant ear infections. Is that something that
Mhm.
you dealt with? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I've had a lot of ear infection. Well, we're very small up here,
Yeah.
and you can't tell, I have allergies big time, congestion and all that stuff.
So your sinuses are smaller.
Yes, is that
That's how my daughters are.
definitely yes. To the point that even like when I have surgery, you have to be careful because the area is so small.
Okay.
As far as the anesthesia, it affects us greater because it's harder for us to wake up from it. And
Okay.
then just like this past when I had the spinal surgery, the um the tube that goes down your throat, the they had that in there, and I was on my stomach. You know that
Mm.
I have spinal stenosis,
Okay.
and they cut open, and then all of a sudden, I guess they heard the gurgling, so they had to stop, put me, bring me back because
Okay.
they felt the tube was too big
Okay.
in my
Okay.
throat,
Okay.
so they took it out. You know, so thank
Mhm.
God I'm here
Yeah.
because again I'm so narrow.
Yes.
We're very narrow structure, so that's one of the issues.
Okay.
But yes, ear infections, colds, yes, big
Do you
time.
still have them at this age now?
But no, I have.
Or they subsided after a while?
But they're like I said, my ears are you can the drainage. But yeah, but
Okay.
it's
So
just the
Madeline,
sinuses and stuff.
so let's go into your school years. I heard you say
Mm.
that I heard you say that, of course you had an older sister and an older brother that was very protective of you. Was it ever a time that you were in school by yourself and they weren't there and you felt somewhat intimidated or unprotected?
No, because I also was I mean, I was sweet, but also I was a terror too. I mean, you know,
Okay, okay,
especially in junior high school.
okay,
But honestly, no. Mm-mm.
okay.
I
So, did
can't.
you ever go through any periods as you were growing up? You know, because I think, and we were talking offline, and of course, I asked the why questions, like, why me, Lord? Why this? Did you ever go through a period like that
Oh,
as you were growing up?
yes. Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I think it really hit me when I was in junior high school.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
yeah, because like I said, developing, and um, that's when I started socializing. You
Mm,
know, because and noticing friends tall, da 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 da. I mean, boys, yeah. I mean, it was all that. It's a combination, and then and having an older sister of average
yeah.
height, and she's able to do this, and I can't do
Yeah.
that. But part of it was the age. We're
Yeah.
3 years apart, but still, just like in the story, as I said, I told it the other day, we would go shopping, and we were in the dressing room, the three of us, my mother, my sister, and my sister would put on the clothes, and it was no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put on the pants, stuff, and I'm sitting there, put on the pants, and it was either too tight in the butt and big in the front, and it was so long, and it was hard for that.
Yeah.
But the thing about my mom, she always talked to me,
I love that.
and she, even though she didn't, of course she, like she always said, I don't know what you're going through,
Oh, I like that.
but she just guided me through it. Excuse me.
It's okay. It's okay. And I will say that when we met, you were very emotional because you said that, it's like me advocating for my daughter. It was
Mhm.
similar to how your mom advocated for you. And again, I think that is so important. And again, we talked offline and we were just talking about how everybody deserves to be loved. I mean, we
Yeah,
all have inadequacies. I grew up thinking my lips were too big.
yeah,
My
yeah.
sister, brother, both of them were all of them were light skinned. My mom, my brother, and my sister. I
Yeah.
was the only dark skinned one in the family with these
That's the same
huge
here.
lips.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I
Mhm.
think in some ways we all feel as though we're inadequate, but at the same time, those are kind of physical features. But I guess too, with you feeling like, everybody is taller than me, I'm shorter. I like the cute clothes. How do I get the cute clothes
Right.
that work for me?
Yeah.
All of that. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't go in there picking something out and just going about the business. But again, the way my mother handled it,
Yeah,
because I've seen, siblings. Yeah, I mean, we used to argue and stuff, but resent each other because of that. No, it wasn't like that. It was just something I had to deal with.
that's right.
It wasn't her fault that I was like this,
Yeah.
that I'm like this or whatever. And then,
So
like I
how
said,
did
my
your
bro,
mom I
huh?
will say, how did you go to your mom? And I mean, did you used to cry to your mom all the time and your mom was there like, I'm the saving grace, of course.
Well, first of all, for a long time, I was a crybaby.
Oh,
I'm a mama's girl. I was a mama's girl. Even though at a certain age, I wanted to let me be my own, but still be close.
yes, yes, yes.
But yeah. I mean, the only thing I didn't talk to her about was relationships.
Okay.
But
Okay.
other than that, I can't talk to her about everything.
Okay.
I would come to her, and she would give me advice. Like, for instance, if I was trying to get a job and I knew and the skills and I had everything, but
Yeah.
I didn't hire, I wasn't hired. I would come home, talk to her, and then I'll bounce back and go out again. And that's what the push was.
That's
Instead of
mother's
just giving,
love.
instead
That's
of just
mother's
giving up.
love. It
You know.
conquers all. Mother's love conquers all.
Now I do have to say this because, like I said, my father was in my picture. In the picture, they were married, but he was killed when I was 7. So
Oh,
that's why I don't really talk much about him.
okay.
But I do remember we did a lot of things. He
Okay.
was very active and all.
Okay.
So,
So,
um,
wow.
yeah, like I said, going to junior high school, I took the public transportation, um, the bus, and all that stuff, and that's when I got really rebellious. I was rebellious.
Hmm.
Um, it was just I had friends. It was I didn't, uh-uh. And
Hmm.
there some people have told me they didn't see me as a little person.
Hmm. Hmm.
They didn't.
I didn't see you as a little person. I mean, you have such personality and
Uh,
you have such confidence. And I know that even though that may be the case now, as time went on, that's something. I mean, because we all did it. I felt so insufficient when I was a teenager and I had
uh,
to grow into who I was. So
yeah,
who you see now is not what you saw when I was
r-
13,
right,
14,
yeah.
15. Yeah, it wasn't. It
And that's
wasn't.
when you go through your awkward stage anyway.
You.
Trying to figure things out. And then as I got older, I went to after I graduated high school. I didn't start driving until I was 19, and the only reason that was really, to be honest, because I had people drive me around.
Okay. You
And
were
when my sister,
chauffeur, honey.
yeah, so my sister would come
You were
home,
royalty.
yes, she would drive me around, and then finally, oh well, yeah, back when I was 15, I had my leg surgery,
Hmm.
corrective legs, and I met a lot of little people in Towson, Maryland, St. Joseph's Hospital. Dr. Kopitz, he's no longer living. The little people called him the God. So then after that, like I said, I met a couple, average sized man. His wife was a little person, and they had a daughter, a little person, and we became friends.
Hmm.
And then I went to summer job with him, and he came over one day and said, "Okay, look, we're gonna start driving. You need to learn how to drive." And he had extensions that you to put on the pedals.
Mm.
So he said, "Come on, let's go." And so that's why I got my license at 19. So then, I drove around
Did
just
you
like
feel
this.
empowered at that
Oh
point?
my gosh, I loved it. I loved it. I still do.
I want you
Yes,
to I wanted Tony put a comment in here and he said as a little person she protected her younger bigger cousin.
yes, I did. Yes.
Another person has said in Instagram, and this is Candace. This is she's been on our show before. Wonderful, wonderful. And I think she's called a psychologist. I hope Candace, I'm saying it right. But she is awesome. But she says, "Hi, Madalyn. I love the compassion and advocacy that advocacy provides. I will say, for me, again, when I met you, you had such personality, and
Oh, thank
I
you.
was so curious. And I was talking to my son about you being on the show. And one thing that he did ask me, and he's on here now, he said, "Mom, I will be joining."
Right.
But he asked me, and I told him, I said, "I don't know." He asked me, he said, "Well, Mom, how how do they prefer to be called? Some people say dwarfism, some people say little people. What do you prefer to be called?"
Madeline say no.
I know.
Yeah.
Ultimately, yeah, but ultimately,
Yeah,
Madeline.
it's and sometimes people can't say dwarf. They have a hard time saying it. So I've
Mhm.
heard people say dwarf and all that stuff. But little person,
Little person. Okay.
yeah. But like the term midget, that's an insult, big time.
Mm.
Because half size,
Wow.
so but
That's good to
little
know.
person, that's the name for it there.
And I guess it was kind of like how my daughter back in the day, she would have been considered as retarded.
Hmm.
And so I understand a lot of those were words that were used back in the day out of
Right, right.
ignorance, and now they call it special needs, you know.
Mm-hmm. So,
So I do think that words have power, and I think that those words have been thrown around so much when they in the 70s, like you say, in the 70s, people were like, oh yeah, they're retarded. And so
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to say that now is definitely an insult. There's a better
Right.
way to refer to her. Like you say, ultimately her name is Morgan. And I hate when people try to say, oh yeah, the special needs girl. I said her name's Morgan. So I know how you feel.
Exactly. Yeah, the special needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know how
Mm-hmm.
you
Oh
feel.
yeah. And let's talk about that. You know, when I was younger, my mom, she used to get so mad at people staring at me,
Hmm.
and my brother, he used to want to fight him. You know, because if people staring,
Yeah.
and now, I mean, like my cousin Tony, will if somebody's staring, and I call myself a celebrity, you know, take pictures and all that stuff. So you have to make
Turn,
do
turn a
something.
lemon
Make it
into
happen.
lemonade.
Yeah.
And I
So,
will say that my daughter gets a lot of stares. And what I started doing, um, is asking, and most of the time I didn't mind it from kids because they're
oh
inquisitive.
yeah. Hmm.
But when it became adults, but there were times, and I say this a lot, I was somewhere, I think I was at NIH and I worked there, and there was somebody that came in and there was something, I can't remember all that was there. And I didn't I didn't want to ask, but I was like, oh wow, what's going on? And I didn't have my daughter at the time. So
Mm,
now I see how that could be so offensive, but I don't always think, I know for me saying that it wasn't out of just trying to be ignorant, but every time you go out, I felt like my daughter was a showstopper. And I felt
hmm.
like it was a line of people to ask me questions. And I just want to go to the grocery store just like everybody else.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't come to have a sideshow. So
Right. Yep.
I understand how you
Hmm. But
feel.
I mean, I guess now it's, well, for me, it's a little, it's, I, I ignore it unless
Hmm.
it's just like right in my face. And so, especially since that show, you see more little people on TV now
Hmm.
than you did back then. Because I've had people ask me about, did I know the women on Little People? I mean, Little Women. So, I mean,
You be
or
like, if I did, I would ask to join the cast. Oh,
right. I
I can make
mean,
some money.
yeah. So,
People
but
just,
yeah, you get some people just,
yeah, they
yeah,
don't know. So
no,
there are some people that don't know and they are truly inquisitive. And then you just have some ignorant people. For me, when that has been the case with me, with my daughter, I'll tell them in a minute, I'll be like, come on, let me educate you. And then they shy away, like, like, oh no, no. I said, come on. I said,
hmm,
ask me what you want. Ask me what you want.
and you're
Then
going
when you
right,
give them that opportunity, a lot of the times they shy away. Yeah.
right. And like I said, I'm the same way. People ask, I've had people ask, how do you drive? And then again, it depends how they ask me.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, show them or whatever. And like I said, I don't have a problem with that. It's just how you approach me,
Yeah.
stuff like
Exactly.
that. But
Now,
hmm,
now, Madeline, I know you mentioned you had surgery on your legs. Can you talk about some of the surgeries that you had and how that's affected you over time?
well, the surgery is pertaining to me being a little person was, like I said, the corrective legs. I had that. I was 15. I was in the cast for like 6 months
Mm, mhm,
from up from my upper thighs all the way down, from my feet. They were out like this. That was rough because my sister and mother were here. My brother was had joined the service. Um,
So, what was that to do? I know you saying that was corrective surgery. What
they
was
had
that?
to break the bone to straighten the leg.
Okay.
So then they put metal to hold it in so it could mend.
Okay.
And then after the 6 months, they I'll never forget when they took the cast off. My legs looked so small.
Oh,
And I had to learn how to walk again all over.
okay.
And I mean, and like I said, the hospital where I was great. I was there for a month. I
Mm.
didn't want to come home. And it was a hospital with a lot of little people were there.
Okay. So you
Where,
felt in your you was in your element
yeah,
and it's
even though,
good.
but the thing is, what's crazy is when my mother was introduced to the LPA, Little People of America,
Mhm.
is a big organization.
Oh, okay.
And actually, yeah, you can look online. It's lpa.org, and that gives you all detailed information of all different types of dwarfism. Mm. So when we went to a couple of meetings,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be honest, I was uncomfortable because I was not used to that.
Okay. You were
And it was,
used to being around neurotypical, like tall people.
yeah,
Okay.
so it was, and I wasn't judging. It's just I wasn't comfortable with it. But then, as I got older and I went to the hospital when I had my corrective leg surgery, there was some around, and I was fine. But it was shocking at first to see that it was all different sizes, tall. People were married, had babies, and yeah, it was. I was okay. Yeah, I was in junior high school, I think, when I went to a meeting.
Mm.
You
And
know.
I can imagine that. I think just like with when I had my daughter and they said it was a rare condition,
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes you need that encouragement or it empowers you. You know, it's power in numbers. And I think sometimes I don't know if you ever went through this. And I know you said your mom said she didn't know how you felt, but sometimes you could feel alone. And I think being around people that resemble you, it's almost like, wow. First of all, you share information. How did you do
Mm-hmm.
this? Oh, I did this way. And so it can
Mm-hmm.
definitely, it's an education.
Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
It is because, like I said, once after I had the surgery, I met with that family, Mac and Susan, and I used to go over their house and babysit their daughter, so we had a connection, you
Okay.
know. But as far as feeling alone, I didn't feel that until maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, after
Mm-hmm.
I had, yes, go back. I had lumbar surgery
Hmm.
in 2014, the lower
Hmm.
part back. And I was okay, I was able to go back to work and everything. Then in September of 23, I had the lumbar thoracic surgery.
Hmm.
And that was the worst. Healing process, everything. And that's what I'm still healing from now. And it was really bad. I got in deep depression. And that's when I felt like nobody understands.
Mm. Okay.
Because my physical limitation was greater
Hmm.
to the point that I couldn't stand up too long. I couldn't, climb the stairs, all that, like I
So your
did
whole
before.
life was somewhat altered
Right.
from what, yeah, your life was altered and it's almost like getting it's like a new reality almost that you're having
And
to
I had a hard time accepting it,
okay. Okay.
and which caused a problem because I would get irritable,
Mm.
become irritable, on the desk. And I lived with my sister, and we stayed together, and I was lashing out at her to cause little problems, even though she was helping me. And
Mm.
I wasn't working, so I was home by myself. It was just a lot, even though I had support from family and stuff, but
Right.
it just wasn't
You were going through it firsthand.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
but
It's a
eventually came out of it. I mean, I still have my little dark days, but I'm getting better because I'm
lot.
seeing an improvement. I'm still having pains and stuff, but I'm seeing as you saw, because I was leaning on the table.
Now,
But
now tell our listeners what made them do these surgeries.
spinal stenosis when the narrowing of the spine, the spine, and it was compressing against the nerves,
Oh,
and
okay.
how um, the lumbar, how I figured what was going on was my legs started to get weak. Like I walk, then all of a sudden I'll just fall,
Mm,
And then but also I was having back pain. I thought it was a muscle or whatever. Then that's when we found the doctor, and that's when he told us. Then years later, here comes. I started having problems again on my left side to the point that when I walk up the steps, my sister would have to put her leg behind mine to lift it. I couldn't lift it, and so
okay.
I was out of work, and I would use my walker, so I had that surgery. But so far now, it's
Mhm.
hopefully no more
Okay. Okay.
because they had to look at the cervical part. I said, no, no, no.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that comes with the territory.
Okay. Okay.
But I will say I'm truly thankful because again, achondroplasia dwarfism, they have a lot of other issues, and I didn't
Mhm.
have developed these until later in life.
Okay. Okay.
Corrective leg surgery was because I would have had problems walking and stuff as I got older.
Mhm.
That's a minor thing.
But that
But
was like a one and done thing. It was like,
right,
yeah, yeah.
right. So, but the other ones, the back surgeries, that was like I said in 2014. Other than that, I didn't have any other problems.
That's a blessing.
Yeah,
That is
so
truly a blessing.
yeah, I was just running around here doing what. And as my cousin Tony said about when people used to mess with him, yes, I did stand up to them. I didn't care. I still don't care. But my
Yeah,
mother did tell me. She used to tell me, Madalyn, just because you're little doesn't mean people are gonna not say, "Oh, I'm not gonna do anything to you because you're little."
yeah. People are
Don't
crazy.
don't go out and start stuff. That's
Yeah.
where close my mouth because yeah, like you said, oh, I'm not gonna do anything because she, right.
Hmm.
But also, if somebody tries to into your space, yes, you stand up for yourself.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right. You have to set the tone. You definitely have to set the tone. Um, One thing that I wanted to ask too, I know we had IEPs and 504s in schools.
hmm
I don't know if they had that back then, but did because it doesn't seem like you needed an IEP, but you might have needed a 504 for accommodations, like any type of accommodations.
yeah, I did. I didn't have a IEP. I did have some resource
Okay.
because let me see. I started school when I was 5. I didn't want to go to school because I didn't want to be away from my mother. One, and then my father died when I was 7.
Okay.
That's right at the September starting school. So
Hmm.
I didn't even realize. I get she realized it. I was just didn't want to do anything.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
guess in time, but I did have some resource teachers. I would go to the council a lot. But and then for junior high school, I went to a school that was a smaller setting.
Hmm.
Because my mother was worried about me going to a big school.
Okay.
So I went there. But then high school, I wanted to go back to my neighborhood school,
Okay.
and I was on the honor roll and stuff.
Okay.
No problem. But a lot of it is I can't honestly remember if it was I was in special ed.
No,
But
but
I
like
did have a lot of
accommodations,
resources. I did have the accommodations.
yeah, like a smaller chair or like a
Oh yeah, I had
desk.
a small chair and a desk.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did have those. Yeah, my
And
mother
those,
made sure
yeah.
that to get this done. And then when I started teaching in PG County, I was like, okay, this needs to be done for these kids too,
Hmm.
because I knew from experience. But I would tell the parent how help the parents and what they need to do and stuff.
So I'm hearing you were a teacher. So you were teaching other dwarfs. Were you?
No, um, other kids with other disabilities, not
Okay,
dwarfism.
so other disabilities that did not. Okay. And
Mainly autism.
okay, that's what my daughter
Mhm.
had.
And
See,
or
that's a
learning.
great thing when you have gone through something. A lot of times we need more people in the school systems because, like this, and I say this all the time, I bumped into the right people because I didn't get a guide with my daughter. So for
Yeah.
me, I was feeling my way in the dark. They gave me the parental rights for Morgan or what have you, but it was a book this thick that's full of legal jargon.
Hmm.
So, you know, just having her teachers that were so good to me, they pulling
Yeah,
me to
that
the
count. That's
side.
yeah.
Yeah, that helps. That really helps. That
Yeah,
really
that makes a big difference. But it's just they need so many teachers because that's one of the issues, special ed teachers.
helps.
Is and you can get easily burned out, but
You can. They said it's
yeah,
a revolving door, and I
yeah.
I get that. I get that.
Hmm. It's
Now, tell us now about you as an adult. Tell us, how I know we heard about the surgeries and different things and how you kind of went through depression. And I will say this, Madeline, your life really doesn't sound any different from everybody else because I think everybody, they talk about the mental illness and the different things that people are going through. So it's just life as a whole. Yours may be
Mhm.
one thing, mine is another. And so I think, again, it's like getting with those people that are encouraging. Like the Bible talks about wise counsel
Mhm.
because when you have that person and that person is encouraging, like you say, I felt like, okay, I've been bandaged up. I'm ready to go back out there.
Mhm.
We need that.
Yeah.
So, I know you said your mom is gone. How do you, who stepped in that place? If somebody could step in that place, who stepped in that place?
Well, what do you mean as far as?
Like, as far as like, I know you said you could go to your mom and talk about anything, and your mom was so encouraging to you. How, I mean, has there been anybody I know those some big shoes to step into, but have you found anyone else to kinda you can feel like you can go and talk to them about anything like your mom?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, but again, as we always say, there's nothing like your mom.
Nothing like your mom. It's
You
nothing
know,
like your
there's
mom.
nothing like your mom.
Yeah.
And but yes, I've
Okay,
yeah. Um. Mhm.
okay.
And I've gotten my sister and I've gotten closer enough. We've been able to talk. I mean, we were always close, but
Okay.
we was like night and day. And
Yeah.
then I always talk to my brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So and my cousins. But yes, but like I said, it's nothing like your mom.
Nothing like your mom.
And yeah, and that's another thing. I was in the dark because, like I said, as I told you, she passed in 22, September
Mhm,
22.
mhm.
So yeah. So,
Yes,
but
yeah.
again, I'm. Well, I shouldn't say this. Glad she's gone because she's at peace. She's no
Yeah.
more pain. But it's just the fact of,
Your
you know.
mom seemed like she was a strong force in your life, and I love the fact that, from what you said, even though you were fragile, and she's like, "Listen, I gotta protect you." I love the fact that number one, you were protected, you were loved, and at some point, she knew, okay, I can let her do a little more. I love that balance
Yeah,
because
because my father was the one that let her, let her get out there. Because actually, if it wasn't for him, she even said, and that's when I used to, like I said, run around and stuff. Yeah, because she was scared. I get it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was tiny and stuff. But and then after a while, she's like, As I got older, because I didn't move out until I was 28,
okay.
and she was like, we can't have two queen bees in here. It's time to go. Oh yeah, she loved us, but it was like, come on, what we gonna do? What you gonna do? But yeah,
So what are
yeah, I
some of
think
the
your mom.
What
I
are
did.
some of the activities that you did in school? Because I know you said that, like, when they were out there playing sports, you kind of got out there. What are some of the things that you started getting involved in?
Um, I didn't do like after school sport. Well, the kickball was my biggest thing. Oh, I love kickball.
Oh my God,
And
I
when I
hate.
went to junior high school, I played soccer.
Okay,
We had baseball, softball.
okay,
Um, but soccer was the big thing.
okay,
Uh, like I said, kickball. We in our neighborhood, we would play kickball. And then when I was working with the kids in schools, I'd be outside in recess,
okay.
playing with them. And that's another thing to go back. After I had my first surgery, that was hard because I wasn't able to do those things.
Okay.
And so I would sit there and, because my mind is telling me, yeah, go ahead and do it. But my body's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I was like, oh man, you know. And I mean, it was a lot of adjustment.
yeah. I can
A lot of
imagine.
adjustment. But yeah, I did move out when I was 28 to an apartment not that far from my mother's house. Because in fact, she was able to walk to my house. I
Okay,
mean, she used to walk all the time. And then I moved back home when she got sick.
okay,
And so I'm still here.
okay,
And
okay,
that,
okay.
so.
So, what encouragement would you give another child that's born and that was diagnosed with this same illness? I mean, any form of um, being a dwarf, what type of advice would you give them? Because, like you say, today is different. I mean, it's just so different.
Um, don't let that stop you. Don't let that your disability stop you. You can do what the average size person do, but maybe it's a little different.
Hmm.
Different way. Um, and I believe that. Like I said, in the kitchen, cooking, the average size person just stands there. I have to use a stool.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
I
Like when
like
I go to the store, there's some things I have. I may try to get it myself, but then sometimes I'll say, "Can you get that?"
I like that.
Um, you know, it's just you're doing things differently.
Hmm.
You know,
And that's just in life, period. I
yeah.
think people are afraid to ask for help. It's like, I think, and so that's why I like you saying that, because I think that, of course, you got to make sure the setting is appropriate, but I don't think it's too. I know we still talk about how things are different now, but there are a lot of good people in the
Oh
world.
yeah. Hmm.
It is. And so I think when you say that, don't be afraid to ask for help, I think that's a good thing. And I hope a lot
Hmm.
of listeners are tapping into that, because there's a lot of caregiver burnout, and there's a lot
Hmm.
of people that are being diagnosed with various illnesses that are afraid to ask for help. Like me, and I tell everybody this, and I told you that at the expo, I suffered in silence. I did.
Hmm.
I did.
Hmm.
I suffered in silence. I felt alone a lot. And I think the whole thing that we try to preach on advocacy is you're not alone. You may think you're alone, but you're
Hmm.
not. And sometimes they will say, well, go to this help group. And I think one time I went to a support group, and I still I didn't feel comfortable, because when the people were talking, most of their kids were verbal. And I'm like, this not
Okay.
me,
Yeah.
because Morgan is nonverbal.
So
So
they
even
can't.
when
Yeah.
I went to some of the places, I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. So some of the complaints they had, or some of the things that they did, like, I had to take him for his driving test. He didn't get his license to 19 versus 16. And I was just saying to myself, this is not the place for me, because it seemed like everywhere we went, we didn't fit in anywhere. Morgan's
Hmm.
disability
Hmm.
did not fit in anywhere. And so I like what you say when you say, um when you went to that hospital, it's like you begin to meet other people that were considered little people. And I think
Hmm.
that is so important, because there are times that you're gonna need to talk to somebody that it lines right up with you. Not saying, "Oh, I know I can hear you, I empathize," but
Yeah, yes,
and that's important. Sometimes that's very important.
yes. I don't. I haven't. I lost contact with them years ago. But so no, I don't know any other little people. But yeah, it's
Are you still active in that community, like the
no,
LPA? Okay,
no. I really wasn't as active, to be
okay,
honest.
okay.
No, and it wasn't that I didn't want to be. It's just I didn't. Yeah, and it could be. You have to what do you call it? Pay. It could be expensive. But
Oh,
again, it's a good resource. I do, still go in there and see what they have and stuff. But
now one thing we didn't, and I wanted to dive in because we don't have a lot of more time. I feel like I could talk to you all night. I do because I'm curious. And I know a lot of our listeners, wanted to know as well. I know
Mhm.
one thing that we talked about was the clothes, and you were saying that when you tried on different things and they might have been too tight on your hip or they too long and this and that. How did you combat that problem?
Oh, there was the cleaners. Is still the cleaners up the street from us. My mother would take some clothes to the cleaners, and there was a lady in there that was hemming my pants, and there was another lady, and she said, I can hem your clothes from home because it's expensive.
Yeah.
So she now hems my clothes to the point that it looks like I got it out the store.
Yeah, because
She,
you would shop
she,
at the expo.
huh?
I said, because you would shop at the expo.
Really?
You
Like,
look cute. Yes, you
yeah,
did.
okay. Like they,
You did.
but yeah, the pants are like tapered off. I mean, because okay, I can buy a pair of pants $30 jeans. It's about $15, $20 to get it done. So we
Yeah,
talking about $50. Yeah, it's expensive.
yeah, yeah.
And then, but the only thing is, I haven't had like there's some shirts and stuff that I want, but I got to get that done. It depends. So I don't like to look sloppy,
You didn't.
you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's expensive. I need to learn how to sew myself.
Yeah, that is quite expensive. They do.
Yes,
It's funny because I'm surprised somebody hasn't created clothing for little people.
there is a site that I did find on the LPA, but oh my goodness, her clothes are
And
expensive,
see,
and she doesn't seem. I don't know, because I clicked on. I don't know if she doesn't do it anymore or
hmm
anything. But some nice, yeah, nice clothes.
yeah.
So,
Everything is expensive. Everything, and
yeah,
I mean
it
that's
is.
across the board. That's a big industry right there when you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to accommodate any type of special needs. Because if I get
It
some for
is.
my daughter, yeah, it's very expensive.
Yeah,
It's
it
very
is.
expensive.
Absolutely. That it is. So,
Yeah,
and
so I
right.
mean, I know we're getting ready to go, but I just want to just thank you and just I mean,
Oh,
do
thank
you have any
you.
party? I told you, I think we're gonna be hooked for life. I love your personality. I do.
Oh, I
I
know my family's probably saying, "Girl, you don't know her." Like,
Nah, I know, but you
yeah, I
know
just see that. I'm just lying. Stop. I'm just
what?
lying.
I saw Tony on here, but I just
Yes, that's my PR.
yeah, he sure was. He made sure that we got all of Madalyn's information because he was like, yeah, she needs to be on here. And I
Mm-hmm.
will say that, again, my whole goal, I love to hear about people from different walks
Yeah,
dealing with different disabilities because I know we capitalize so much on autism, but there is so much more going on out here that
it's a
people
lot.
are
Yeah,
dealing.
yeah, yes,
Yeah. And so for me, when we met you, I was just like, wow, you just had such, again, like a good disposition. And I would
thank
have
you.
never known that you were in pain. I would have never known that.
Yeah, I was because that's the first time that I walked like that. since I've had the surgery.
Then why didn't you use your walker that day?
Well, my Tony, I had to walk, and he was like, "Mom, you just try using the cane."
Hmm.
So I would use the cane around the house or little stuff, and so that's when I just started using the cane. But then
Okay.
that day I said, if I walk like this, I'll probably use the walker.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, I wasn't like crying or nothing. It was just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it was so it wasn't like that bad. I mean, it was bad, but you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Um, I'm glad I did it.
Hmm.
I was proud of myself. I said, "Oh my goodness, hey, look at me."
Yeah.
But cause like I said, usually I've done use the walker and stuff. But
Hmm.
so he gave me his cane that he had, and he shortened it for me to use it. So
Wow. Well, I'm gonna say this, Madeline. It has been such a
I
pleasure
know
talking.
this is wonderful.
Yeah, and it's been a pleasure meeting you. I mean,
Did you say
I,
to you? Yeah.
I wish that I could have met your mom. Just the things that you're telling me about your mom. Um, it's this is what advocates say is we just have so many different
Mm-hmm.
reasons for this. Number one is to teach society, and then it's a chance to. I mean, it's education, but it's also knowledge is power on my shirt because I think at the same time, if we empower other parents, they won't suffer in silence. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and I think it's very important for us to understand that you have to advocate for your special needs individual, whatever the special needs is. You
Mm-hmm.
have to advocate for them because in most cases, nobody else is going to do.
Yeah, because one thing about it I learned, not even just with me, they think we don't know anything.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't know that. Don't just look at us. And I've had still to this day, and you have to, like you said, people advocate that teach them that they can learn
yeah, they
just
can.
different ways.
Exactly. It's just doing
Hmm.
it differently. And then it's just it may like for my daughter it's little skills that I'm teaching her life skills. I'm teaching her
Exactly. Yeah.
how to be as independent as possible. Is it the same look that my son had? No, but it's like for me if I give her like if I tell her, hey, Morgan, I need you to take off your shoes. It was
That's
surprising because when she took
that's a
off her
go.
shoes I jumped for joy because I'm like,
Right.
take off your shoes.
Right.
Let's go a little further. Take off your socks and your shoes.
Hmm.
So I think that people need to understand that we need to make them as independent as possible.
Yes. Yes.
You don't push them beyond their limitations, but you can teach them how to do things and do it in a different way. But
Right.
you
Exactly.
never count them out. You never count them out.
Right. Exactly. You sure can.
Hmm.
So, like I said, in a different way, and just have patience.
Yes.
You know, he
Yes.
may score, and this one still may be back here, but that's fine.
Yes.
You know, and
Exactly.
that's
Well,
one of the issues in school.
yeah.
You know, everybody's on different levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's just even neurotypical. That's neurotypical.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I definitely applaud you. I
Thank
applaud
you.
your mom. I applaud your family because I can tell that you're loved. Just I could tell your confidence. Your confidence is a lot of the time it comes from that family because you are loved. And I think if you weren't loved and you weren't treated just like everybody else, it would have caused you to go into a shell. And then when you went outside that home, that lack of confidence would show. But the fact that you have so much confidence and the fact that you have so much boldness with you, it comes from your family. And
Yeah,
I,
that's my siblings right there too.
yeah,
Because I'll get all sad and they'll say something, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is harsh," but no,
yeah.
it's not. Something I need to hear.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I just think, and Tony did say she got me many places. Thank God for her extensions. So you're not,
Oh yeah, I'm driving.
yes, exactly. So I just want to thank you,
Oh,
Madeline. I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us. I really, really appreciate you telling us your
Yeah.
story. I wish nothing but the best for you. And I just pray that we stay in touch and
Oh, we
that,
will.
yes, indeed, we will.
Our paths cross for a reason.
All right. I like that. I like
You
that.
know?
I
Thank
like that.
you.
Yes, but again, it was really, I hope my listeners learned something because I know I did. I
Okay.
did.
Thank you. Good.
And I pray that you have a wonderful night. And guys, join us back next Thursday because we have another great show.
Yep.
And we have, I can't even remember. I think we have some legal information coming up.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, it's
That's sounds
definitely going to be a
yeah.
great show talking about legal, how to deal with our special needs and from a legal standpoint, how to put things
Yeah.
in place, making sure that they're well taken care of, make because we can't just take care of them and we can't be here forever. So we got to
Yes.
set
That's
things
yeah,
up.
that's yeah,
Yes. So this
exactly.
is this is going to be very important for you guys to come back next week. But
Okay.
at this point, everybody say this is a great show. Thank
Thank
you guys.
you.
I think so
I
too. And
was
she was
nervous. I
so
was like, oh
nervous.
my
I
goodness.
told her she would do great. I
I
told her that.
was okay. I
Yes,
had my little notes.
yes. Well, you did an awesome job. I
Yeah.
really, really. Everybody said thanks for the invite. I learned a lot. And that's what advocacy is about.
Yeah.
So
Thank
again,
you.
Madalyn, I thank you. I appreciate you. And anything that I can, well, me and you are friends now.
Yeah,
So
we definitely will talk.
yes, we will. Yes, we will. So guys, come back and join us next Thursday. And again, everybody have a great weekend. We thank everybody for joining us. All
Thank
right,
you.
Madalyn.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
I want what they got to say. Oh, leave the studio.